Tony also knows boxing. You're tuning into my channel. I haven't been on the channel for a while. I've been trying to get myself organized. I'm gonna eventually do a background, look more professional for my videos. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody that shows support and love, and those that don't, you know, just put your energy in something positive and constructive. If you're coming on my channel, it's to be positive. But if you're gonna be negative, create something of your own and see if it works for you. But as far as I'm concerned, there's too much negativity in this world, and I just want to create great content that uplifts our people and it gives our people the truth, the real information in boxing. Right now, under negotiation is I think with Thomas Hearns, the promoter, is actually negotiating a deal between Jaron Boots Ennis and Teofimo Lopez somewhere in October. No, not October. It was rumors about October. It says August. That is the latest that I got. They're trying to negotiate that fight for August in Saudi Arabia. Turki Al-Sheikh is going to be involved. And I think Thomas Hearns, Eddie Hearns, not Thomas Hearns, Eddie Hearns is actually negotiating with Turki Al-Sheikh to make the Jaron Boots Ennis fight with Teofimo Lopez, because Jaron Boots Ennis is under the promotional banner of Eddie Hearns, not Tommy Hearns, Eddie Hearns. Anyway, I'm just so excited, and I feel like that fight right there, you know, based on Teofimo Lopez's performances, I don't really think he deserves a fight like that. But his last performance, he did look good. You know, it wasn't a flawless performance with Barbosa, but he did win. He was able to capitalize on Barbosa's lethargic, slow combinations, and I gave him a chance to upset, you know, Teofimo Lopez, because based on his performances. But at the same time, you got to look at it. There's certain variables that he saw, certain weaknesses and holes in Barbosa's game, and that's why he decided to finally accept that fight. But at first, he wasn't really clamoring for that fight, and I think he was right. In the press conference, he said that Teofimo Lopez, they're forcing him to actually fight the better fighters, because they don't want to put money in him fighting just any fighter, like the Claggett fights and all those other fights with Sandor Martin, which he really lost, but they gave it to Teofimo Lopez because he has the name. So they started putting him with more competitive fights now, because they don't want to keep putting money on fights that people don't want to see. So the fight with Barbosa, he was kind of forced to take that fight, but at the same time, when his back was pushed against the wall, he definitely didn't want to choose Subriel Matias, even though that was going to be the most money that he was making in his career, $3 million, more than he made with Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. So he refused the Subriel Matias fight because he doesn't want to lose right now in this part of his career, because he's no longer the same Teofimo Lopez that fought Lomachenko. Let's not get it twisted. Yes, he looked good against Barbosa, but he didn't look flawless. And he was able to capitalize on the fact that Barbosa is a lot slower and easier to predict, even though he's a skillful fighter. But he is not as quick enough to take advantage of the flaws that Teofimo Lopez has. And, you know, Teofimo Lopez doesn't like pressure fighters that throw a lot of combinations, that know how to cut the ring. He struggles with that. He struggled with Kambosos, so what makes you think he won't struggle with Matias? Anyway, I feel like, based on the fact that Teofimo Lopez knows that his career is on the line as far as, you know, making money and capitalizing on being a main event, it's very limited, because his skills are still there, but his he doesn't mentally have the what it takes to actually be in the position that he was, like when he fought Lomachenko, and he did great with Lomachenko. That was a great performance, but he hasn't looked that great or spectacular since that fight. And the only reason why he looked good, decent, in his last performance with Barbosa, because he picked a slow, lethargic opponent that is going to make him look faster than what he really is and better than what he really is. So it's, you know, it's psychological. A lot of things are tactical and they're strategic. You know, he's choosing the right path to make himself look good without taking so much chances, so that way he could get the bigger fights before he retires or loses, because he knows that if he fights anybody that's credible or a threat and dangerous enough, he's not going to be able to get the bigger fights. So that's why he avoided fighters like Subriel Matias. So that's why he chose the most formidable opponent possible with Barbosa, even though if real boxing fans know that he's slow enough to make, Teofimo Lopez look good. How you doing, Neymar? How you doing? Thanks for tuning into the channel. Subscribe to Tony Also Knows Boxing. Thanks for tuning into my channel. Subscribe to my channel. So I feel that that's the reason why they're negotiating a fight with Teofimo Lopez and Jaron Boots Ennis, because they know that he can make the most money possible before actually losing to a credible opponent that is not as promoted as Jaron Boots Ennis or Terence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez. So they want to do the business strategy and say, okay, we got to make Teofimo Lopez look as good as possible and protect him as much as possible, and put him against opponents that look more beatable for him, that are not as risky as of a Subriel Matias. But he had an opportunity to fight Subriel Matias in Top Rank. Basically, they tried to give him that fight, but he refused it. He looked for all kinds of excuses. They could have fought in New York, where there's a lot of Puerto Ricans, and I feel that Teofimo Lopez knows that he's not going to be the favorite, and more people are going to root for him if they were to fight. So he was using the excuse that in Las Vegas is not a good Puerto Rican market. Then why would he put me to fight him? He's setting me up. Like, I'm not going to sell pay-per-view. But Top Rank basically said in New York they would do the fight, but he wasn't open to that. Obviously, he knows that he's not the favorite if he was to fight Subriel Matias in New York. But enough of that. I feel. Let me cut to the chase. I think Jaron Boots Ennis is going to beat Teofimo Lopez. He's going to really annihilate him. He's going to make Teofimo Lopez look like who he really is. I think he's too small. He might do good in the beginning with the boxing, but I feel like physically and skill-wise, Jaron Boots Ennis is at another level. He looked great in his last performance with Stanionis. Pressure fighter, so it's different. When he fights a pressure fighter that really wants to take your head off, like the way Stanionis was doing against Jaron Boots Ennis, I think it was an impressive fight, and I think those are the kind of fighters that Jaron Boots Ennis looks really, really, really great in. But fighting a boxer, it's physically his size, it's gonna be, it's not gonna be as an impressive fight, but he still will win. I'm not saying he's the greatest defensive fighter at all. He does have it when he wants to use it, but he gets caught up into pleasing the crowd a lot, and he tries to knock out his opponents, and sometimes that could be to his detriment as far as looking totally dominant. But as far as winning, it hasn't affected him, but it could in the future if he keeps trying to impress the fans instead of focusing on all his skillful attributes that actually will benefit him. Regardless of how he looks, sometimes you gotta look bad in some fights, that you can't always knock out everybody. Just exploit the weaknesses of the opponent and use your boxing ability, even if you have to look bad. So I feel like that's the thing that he struggles with the crowd. He struggles with pleasing the crowd. But I think Jaron Boots Ennis is the truth, and he's a great fighter. I feel that he's gonna knock out Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez has Kambosos problems. So what makes you think he's not gonna have problems with Jaron Boots Ennis? It's an illusion. They're making it, selling it to the fans, making it seem like it's a competitive fight, because Teofimo Lopez, the way he looked in his last fight against Barbosa, is very misleading, because he chose the perfect opponent to look good against. Barbosa is very slow. If you really look at him, he's very slow, very formidable, but he's very slow. And I think Teofimo Lopez didn't struggle with him too much, because he knew how to anticipate what he was going to do, and he just used his boxing ability, which is good. But what are you going to do with a boxer that's not slow, like Subriel Matias? Subriel Matias is not slow and throws a lot of combinations. You're not going to be able to look that good. I mean, say whatever you want about the fight with him and Liam Pato. I feel there was a lot of politics behind that, and it was had to do with promotional status. You know, Superhero Matias was not on a great known promotional banner. He's with Fresh Boxing Production, but they negotiated something behind the scenes, and they said that you have to basically, you know, let the fighter that has the most stature and with the better promotional banner, like Eddie Hearns, Liam Paro, win the fight, and then we'll give you your own pay-per-view in your next fight. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. I put it together. I put all the dots together, all the interviews, and I did my assessment based on the responses. And I said it in other videos exactly why and how I know this really happened. So you can look at the other videos and find out. All right, as far as Canelo versus Crawford, I think Canelo's basically using the fact that Crawford has never been at the 168-pound division as an advantage for himself. And in most cases, a fighter that's actually bigger, like Canelo, than Crawford would win a fight like that. And it's still a dangerous fight for Crawford, but I think Crawford has all the intangibles, all the skills to actually dominate and beat Canelo, despite the fact that he's coming 2 weight classes up, or 3 weight classes up. Is it 147, 154, 160? Yeah, he's actually coming, because he's at 140, he's 154 right now. So 154, 160, 2 weight classes up. He's coming 2 weight classes up. Well, technically 3 if you count that he recently jumped up to the 154-pound division when he fought Madrimov. And so, yeah, you could say 3 weight classes or 2, but I feel that Canelo is in for a rude awakening. I believe that he is going to have somewhat more strength because he's the bigger guy naturally. But Canelo is not, he has no footwork, he has no boxing ability. He never improved after he fought Mayweather. I say the only reason why they say that he improved is because they gave him a gift decision with Erislandy Lara, which Erislandy Lara really won that fight. He outboxed Canelo, and he fought. He moved up and fought an old version of Kovalev, and that really right there, that's not really a legitimate, solid win where he was in his prime. He beat an old, finished Kovalev, and he did good against Bernie. He did Bernie Sanders. Sanders, right? He did good with him, but he's not an elite fighter, and he's not a fighter that dominates with his boxing ability. You got to dominate that style, and he always struggled with Mayweather, Lara, and he basically struggled with Skull. He looked really amateurish, and the only boxer that he legitimately beat was Daniel Jacobs. And Daniel Jacobs, that's a good fighter, but a lot of the fights, with Daniel Jacobs, he beat him solid, and he beat. There's another fighter that I give credit to Canelo, but he's a pillow-fisted fighter, Caleb Plant. He's a good fighter, though. You can't take that away from him. But he has no power, and he didn't dominate the boxing style the way a Mayweather would. And I feel that he got caught up in getting approval from Canelo when he was fighting him, and he was talking to him in the ring, and that's when he got careless, and he got caught, and he got knocked out. But I feel like fighters have to be 100% with that boxing ability style. You can't just get in the ring and think you're going to beat Canelo by slipping and minimizing your full potential in boxing ability, the athleticism, like the way Caleb Plant did, if you want to win the fight. So I feel like there was holes in his game, and Canelo was able to exploit that. But if you're a boxer that has no holes in your game and you really perfect that style, like Shakur Stevenson, Mayweather, Canelo will never be able to beat you. Canelo struggles with boxing athleticism and boxing ability. Fighters like Shakur Stevenson, Mayweather, Terrence Crawford, they can box, and they have a better boxing pedigree than Canelo. Canelo has always been flat-footed, and Canelo's been past his prime. I don't know why people think that Canelo is out of his prime now. They're not paying attention. They're just fooled by the illusion that all the fighters that the fighters that he fought recently, Skull, exposed him to being no longer the Canelo of old and not in his prime anymore. No, you got to pay attention. All the fighters that he's fought as of lately, Charlo moved up 2 weight classes to fight him, and they're not mentally on point with their boxing ability, and plus they're smaller. They're really literally smaller because they're moving up to his weight class. So that's another thing. And then he fought fighters like Jaime Munguia, very limited. They're good fighters, but they're not at the same level, and they have a lot of holes in their games where they can actually be dominated because they're not defensively as skillful to beat somebody like a Canelo. So he fought fighters like that. They're not too fast. They don't have a lot of skills, but they have basic skills. And he fought Berlanga. Berlanga has never been a champion, and he still didn't knock out Berlanga. Berlanga didn't win many rounds. I'm being honest. I'm keeping it a buck. But he did stay in there for 12 rounds, and he proved that he can take Canelo's shot, but he didn't really do much to win the fight. All he did was talk smack to him. And then they give him credit because nobody gave him credit to be able to last the distance with Canelo before the fight. So they're giving him too much credit because he went the distance. And that's just crazy how they praise him for that. When you should praise a fighter for actually really making a good account of themselves as far as winning rounds and making it a close competitive fight. But that wasn't the case. So I feel like all those intangibles, all those fights that he took, that gives you clues that Canelo has been past his prime for the longest. Because the last time he knocked out an opponent was Caleb Plant. And that was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, somewhere around there. And he's no longer knocking people out. So that tells you he couldn't knock out Charlo coming up from 2 weight classes. What makes you think he's going to knock out Terence Crawford? I think Terence Crawford is a different kind of animal, mentally, physically, and the kind of life that he lived, and he's been shot in the head and survived that, and it's just a mental thing, and the mental toughness that he brings, and his boxing skill is very good. And a lot of people make comparisons like, he didn't look good against Madrimov. Like, he's not going to be able to look good against Canelo. How's he going to beat Canelo if he didn't knock out Madrimov? First of all, Madrimov is way more skillful than Canelo. A lot more skillful. He has more boxing pedigree. He moves his legs. He's able to time and block really good. And he's a good counterpuncher. And he had 100 and something fights in the amateurs, despite his 10 fights. So he makes up for the fact that he only had 10 fights. He's a very experienced fighter with a lot of technique. Yes, not Virgil Ortiz. Ortiz, the fighter Ortiz that's supposed to fight Zayas, but he's not going to fight Zayas until Zayas gets a title. None of them have a title. He just wants it to be worthwhile if he's going to fight Zayas. He said that he's not avoiding Zayas. He just wants to make it make sense, for a title. Then it's going to be possible to make that fight because there's more money involved, and that's what he's more concerned about. And I can't be mad at him for that. So yeah, but even though Madrimov versus Ortiz, that fight, Ortiz did struggle with him in the very beginning and towards the middle. But then after the middle rounds, Ortiz came back and started putting a lot of pressure on him, throwing a lot of combinations, eventually hurting him and winning the rounds, hurting Madrimov. But, styles make fights, and I feel like just because Crawford was not able to stop him and didn't look as dominant as Ortiz, that doesn't mean that Ortiz would beat Crawford. That doesn't mean that. Because styles make fights, and Crawford was his first time at 154, so he was trying to feel out the weight, and at the same time, he was more like a technician, like a counterpuncher with him. Like, yes, there was towards the end he was throwing more combinations, landing more combinations on Madrimov, but it was like a skillful fight where he was trying to time Madrimov was trying to time him, and they were both pretty good on timing each other. So it was more of a technical fight. But I believe that was the first time that he was at 154, and that had a lot to do with it. And I feel like Crawford is a lot better than that, but he should stay active. I say He hasn't fought since he fought Madrimov, and I feel like Terence Crawford should take like a tuna fight before he fights Canelo, just so he could be like acclimated to the weight, to 168-pound division. But I feel it's a risky fight for him. Canelo, I don't think that he's gonna be able to like bully Crawford. If you see Crawford and Canelo and the face-off they did after Canelo's poor performance against Skull, they look. Crawford actually looks bigger than Canelo. I think he's probably put on the weight properly, and he's probably going to be stronger. Maybe the inactivity in the ring is actually helping him because he's not as ring. He doesn't have a lot of ring wear and tear on his body, but he might be rusty, ring rusty. He might have some ring rust. So, but I do believe that Crawford has enough what it takes to keep the distance and fight him whenever he wants to, and maneuver and win the fight and dominate him. I got Crawford with a knockout. I think he will get to Canelo, but in the later round. I agree that's possible. Adam, this is Adam right here saying I got Crawford with a knockout. I think he will get to Canelo, but in the later rounds. I believe that's possible, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people are undermining the fact that Crawford is a different kind of animal. Like he's a boxer and a brawler, and he can dictate the pace, and he can actually give Canelo a lot of trouble with his movement. And Canelo hasn't looked really sharp in his last fight. It just exposed what his decline for the longest. He's been in decline for the longest because he's fought people like Berlanga, Munguia, Charlo coming up 2 weight classes. He didn't even knock out any of those guys. So that to me says a lot about Canelo's firepower. Like he's not going to be able to do that to Crawford. He didn't do it to Charlo, and I think Crawford's a lot better mentally. Boxing wise, skill wise, he's better. He has the whole package to actually outthink Canelo, outbox him, and actually hurt him. I think he's a pretty strong guy. Crawford is a pretty strong guy. A lot of people underestimate him. He has a certain fire within him. He's been shot at, and he's got a lot of mental toughness, a lot of skills. Not just mental toughness, but a lot of skills. And he has the mental toughness to combine with his skills. And that's in the boxing ability, all that is poison for Canelo. Canelo struggles with boxers with athleticism. He always has. He's flat-footed. He hasn't been able to knock out limited fighters like Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga. Those are all limited fighters. They're limited. I'm saying Canelo should have knocked them out, or he should have dominated more. Like he won most of the rounds with Berlanga, but Berlanga was able to stay in there with him. He's a tough guy, but I think that Canelo he knocked down Berlanga, he did, but he hasn't knocked anybody out since Caleb Plant. So I'm willing to put money in it for the fight with Crawford versus Canelo. I think Crawford could win that fight. I don't know about a knockout, but he could definitely hurt Canelo. I haven't seen Canelo really hurt. I think Kirkland hurt Canelo, and so did Miguel Cotto's brother, Jose Cotto, early in his career. Yeah, I remember that. He can be hurt. I just think that it depends on how and who it is. Like it's the approach, the strategy, how Crawford comes in the fight is very key, and how he wins. If he wins by stoppage or by unanimous domination performance, I think all those things are possible. And subscribe to that channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe to my channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm getting close. Yes. And in other news, I have June 7th. One of my favorite fighters, Keyshawn Davis, is gonna fight Edwin De Los Santos. That's a really good fight. I appreciate you, Adam. Adam just said, just subscribe for you, my guy. I appreciate you, my brother. Have a blessed day. Enjoy your day. You're going to get nothing but the realest and the most authentic, unholds-barred content. That a lot of content creators don't want to say the honest truth about what's going on in boxing. I call it for what it is. and I keep it real. But thanks for subscribing, my brother Adam. Have a great day. You ain't gonna regret it. I'm just gonna get more professional eventually. Put like something in the background. Tony also knows boxing. I'm just trying to keep my content like official and authentic, but at the same time I want to have the professional look in the back. I don't have that yet, but I'm gonna have that soon. I appreciate everybody. Subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Check out my music as well. Tony also, Unite the Tribes, on Spotify. Check out my new single, Mi Patria. It's a salsa song from an upcoming album that talks about what's going on in Puerto Rico, the colonialism of the United States imposed on Puerto Rico, and the local politicians selling the island, working for Washington, D.C. and the United States government, and selling the island to outsiders, and the Puerto Ricans and the locals in the island, the Boricuas, the Puerto Ricans are getting displaced because the laws that they create with Congress only benefits the outsiders but doesn't benefit the locals, and this needs to stop. We got my man Eliseo Molina in the Senate, so there's a lot of possibilities for Puerto Rico to become independent. My music talks about it. Unite the Tribes. And in my new album, Mi Patria, which the single's already available now, check it out on all major platforms. It's going to have 10 to 11 songs talking about what's going on in Puerto Rico, with typical bomba plena music of the island, or indigenous music of the island, and also rapping and singing on the hooks. But it's going to be mostly like 7 songs, 8 songs me singing, and the other songs just me rapping and singing on the chorus. But yeah, enough about my music. You can check that out on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube if you want to, on all major platforms, and you could download the songs if you like too. I got hip hop and R&B and dance music, everything. I do everything, reggae, salsa. I do all kinds of music, but I do real music, So yeah, subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. So my favorite fighter, one of my favorite fighters, Keyshawn Davis, he's gonna fight June 7th against Edwin De Los Santos. That is going to be hell on wheels. I know that Edwin De Los Santos has not fought since he had a somewhat controversial decision against Shakur Stevenson. I feel like Shakur Stevenson won the fight, but he did run a lot. But I feel like he hurt his hand, and I believe that Shakur Stevenson hurt his hand, and that's the reason why he ran more than he should have. But I feel like Shakur Stevenson is going to do great July 12th. With Super Matias in the undercard versus Puello, and that's going to be a WBC title fight for Super Matias. He really wants that belt, and I think Shakur Stevenson is going to do good, really good against William Cepeda. I think he's going to dominate him. A lot of people are not giving, William Cepeda too much credit because they like his exciting style of fighting. He throws a lot of combinations. He's kind of like Super Matias, but slower, a lot slower. And I feel like he's more lethargic, and I think that's going to be to his detriment. I believe that William Cepeda is too slow for Shakur Stevenson, and I think Shakur Stevenson is really going to look really great because he's going to capitalize on the fact that William Cepeda's combinations are very telling, very telegraphic, and he's going to be able to time it and counter him and possibly knock him down or maybe stop him. It's a possibility. But I think the fight will be unanimous decision for Shakur Stevenson with a possible knockdown, because speed is power. And a lot of times speed, the punch that you don't see, is the one that knocks you out or knocks you down. It surprises you. That's the one that you don't see is the one that can stop you, knock you down, and surprise you. It could do a lot to you. It could befuddle you. All you got to do is throw the jab, the hook, move around, use his lateral footwork, Shakur Stevenson, and he'll be fine against William Cepeda. I think William Cepeda is tailor-made for Shakur Stevenson to look great because he's a one-dimensional boxer. He just goes forward, he throws a lot of combinations, puts a lot of pressure, but he's not a boxer, and he's very predictable. And I think Shakur Stevenson is gonna be food for Shakur Stevenson. He's going to be interesting in the very beginning because he does have some kind of power. He don't have one-punch KO power. He's not like Super Matias has more power than him. Super Matias is accumulation punches, but he has more pop in his power than William Cepeda. So I feel like Shakur Stevenson is going to be very dominant in that fight. And I said it on my channel. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Come on. Click that like button. Come on. click that like button. Don't be afraid to click and subscribe to my channel. Um, yes, and De Los Santos is a dangerous fighter, and I feel like him fighting Shakur Stevenson at this early, and not Shakur Stevenson. I feel Edwin De Los Santos fighting Keyshawn Davis this early in his career. Keyshawn Davis has, I believe he has 13 fights, 9 KOs, or 10 KOs. He's very talented, and I feel like they really believe in him. I feel that Top Rank really believes in Keyshawn Davis. That's why the fight is being made this early. And yeah, Edwin De Los Santos is inactive, but you know, he could be ring rusty. He could have a lot of ring rust going in there. But he is a very dangerous, technical fighter. He is fast, and yes, he didn't win. He didn't beat Shakur Stevenson, but people criticize Shakur Stevenson's performance, but I know that it was because he hurt his hand. I believe it, and I know Shakur Stevenson is great. A lot of people not giving him the credit he deserves, and I think Shakur Stevenson is going to prove a lot of people wrong. There's a lot of people that are hoping that he loses to William Cepeda, the haters, but he's going to prove a lot of the haters wrong that day. And my prediction is he wins by a unanimous decision, possibly knocks down William Cepeda, or he could knock him out, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to knock him down and win by unanimous decision. That's my verdict. As far as Edwin De Los Santos versus Keyshawn Davis, I think Keyshawn Davis is going to have a nice competitive fight up into the third and fourth round, and I think after the fourth round, Keyshawn Davis is going to start dominating him. It's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a tough fight. That's June 7th, and yes, we're going to have Subriel Matias. The Canelo versus Crawford fight is not September 12th. They moved it to September 13th, so it's going to be on a Saturday instead of a Friday. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be September 13th, Canelo versus Crawford. And I say Crawford's going to win by unanimous decision, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. That's my verdict. But, you know, Canelo's being a little cheater. He wants to use the fact that he's like coming up in weight as an advantage. Canelo is really slick. He's really trying to capitalize on that. But I think that Crawford has the right style and the right mindset to actually pull it off with Canelo. That's my verdict. But I think Canelo's being a little sneaky and a little cheater, you know, like trying to find the advantages, you know, because he knows that he's smaller. He don't want to fight Benavidez. He should fight Benavidez, right? Right? Canelo Alvarez is avoiding David Benavidez. He should fight him. That's the fight that fans really want to see. Yep. So, yeah, and as far as let me see what else. What do I think of? Okay, Keyshawn Davis wins. Canelo Alvarez loses to Crawford. Teofimo Lopez loses to Jaron Boots. Subriel Matias versus Puello. I don't know who's going to win that one. I'm rooting for Subriel Matias all the way. But we got to see how he deals with the boxing ability of Puello. Puello's a tall guy. He's no slouch. And I definitely want to see Subriel Matias beat him so bad because of Punch Drunk saying stupid things about the Dominicans, the boxing is going to take over. He did give credit to Puerto Rican boxing, like that we have accomplished more, we've been more successful in boxing. That's true. Dominican boxing is not nowhere near as successful as Puerto Rico, that has accomplished more world champions per capita than any other country based on the size of Puerto Rico. So that's a big accomplishment. And I can't wait for Subriel Matias to pull it off. I'm not going to say who's going to win the fight because that's really a tough fight. But I feel like if Subriel Matias throws a lot of combinations and he uses better defense, he could pull it off. But at the same time, Puello has the boxing pedigree, but he doesn't always fight that way. And I feel like when he fought Sando Martin, he got hit a lot more than usual. And I feel like there's a certain style that he can, you know, look really great at. Like when you try to counterpunch him, like the way Gary Antoine Russell did, that's a no-no against against a Puello, because Puello's he's a good counterpuncher and he uses boxing skills when you fight that way with him. But I feel like if you fight like Subriel Matias and you throw a lot of combinations and don't let him think, I think that style could give Puello problems. But I'm not gonna make a prediction because there's a lot of different variables, and it's a really competitive fight. I give it a 50-50 fight. Subriel Matias versus Puello is a 50-50 fight, but I believe that Subriel Matias can win the fight, but it depends on his approach. You can't let him think. He has to use better defense and know when to throw those close combinations where he throws different speed. He throws his combinations at different speed. That's gonna help him, but he has to know how to do it and when to do it. But he shouldn't try to fight like the way Gary Antoine Russell fought Puello, because that is gonna backfire. That's not his style. That's not Subriel Matias' style. So, Puello will do good against a fighter that tries to fight like like aggressive in boxing and counter punching. With Puello's gonna do good against that kind of style, because he's good at counter punching and timing you. So if you try to fight like that, he's gonna take advantage. But I think Subriel Matias' style is totally different. I think that he should use it to his full potential and use better defense. That's what I say. But I don't know who's gonna win that fight. But since Punch Drunk is talking crap about the Puerto Ricans are gonna lose and that the Dominicans are gonna take over. Oh, I can't wait. If Subriel Matias beats Puello, I'm gonna give it to Punch Drunk. I'm gonna give it to him because he's an undercover little hater. When it comes to Puerto Ricans, and he talked bad about Subriel Matias, and he said a lot of stuff that he should have not said. When it wasn't him that was avoiding a fight with Teofimo Lopez, and Teofimo Lopez does not sign contracts. He's not his own boss. Top Rank is his boss. So he was falsely claiming that Teofimo Lopez sent Subriel Matias a contract, and he didn't. He avoided the fight because Top Rank told Subriel Matias that they were not going to guarantee Teofimo Lopez a fight with him. That's why he skipped fighting Teofimo Lopez and he signed with Eddie Hearns. Not signed, but he did a multi-fight contract with him. And so that's my beef with Punch Drunk. He says a lot of things that's just like, he just plays favorites because Teofimo Lopez is his little girlfriend. So, that's why he says that Teofimo Lopez will beat him, but he doesn't call out how Teofimo Lopez has looked terrible in his last 5 fights, except the Barbosa fight, because Barbosa's slow. That's right. He's really easier to look good against. You just got to know your boxing. He's easy to time. He's predictable, but he's a good formidable fighter. Not taking away from Teofimo Lopez's last victory. He did look good, but he wasn't flawless. But he looked good, but he fought the perfect fighter to look good. Somebody that is slow and lethargic and predictable like Barbosa, in spite of his formidableness. So that's my little bone that I had to pick with Punch Drunk. He's literally punch drunk for real when he says a lot of things, because he doesn't do his research. He doesn't search the facts. He just goes based on his emotional connection with Teofimo Lopez. He's not going to call out everything that he doesn't do, that he didn't look good in those other performances with Claggett, Sandor Martin, etc. But anyway, he's no longer the same fighter. Mentally, he's finished. He's just capitalizing on his name and trying to fight the biggest fights possible, like Crawford or Jaron Boots Ennis, because he doesn't want to lose to somebody like this that he'll make less money with, like a Subriel Matias, but he still would have made more than Lomachenko, $3 million with Subriel Matias, but he refused that because he knows that what Subriel Matias brings to the table. He don't want to lose that soon, so he wants to put his limited abilities against the most highest paid possible fight, like Jaron Boots Ennis, Crawford, even Canelo. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's just trying to make the most money before he loses. That's it. That's my verdict. Subscribe to Tony Also Knows Boxing. Subscribe to my channel, Tony Also Knows Boxing. One more thing I want to say. Inoue, that fighter in the 122 weight division, his last fight was Cardenas. He fought right after the lackluster performance of Canelo against Skull and the lackluster performance of Ryan Garcia and Rolly Romero. That was trash. We wanted to see an excitement, knockdowns, brutal, good technical fight, but at the same time, action. It was just a one-sided, boring fight with Rolly Romero. He's not a real boxer. He's just famous because he fought this guy, Ryan Garcia. And Ryan Garcia's just famous, but they're not like really legitimate elite fighters. Let me see. Just tapped in. Who you got? Canelo Crawford. I got Crawford. J.R. Ryder. I got Crawford, man. A lot of people are sleeping on Crawford. They think that just because he's coming up 3 weight classes that he's gonna get dominated by Canelo, but Canelo's not. He's very flat-footed, and I think Crawford makes up for the fact that he's coming up from those weight classes on his mental mindset and his boxing pedigree. It's second to none, and he has all those attributes combined: the mental and the physical boxing pedigree that he has makes up for the fact that he's coming from 2 weight classes or 3 weight classes. But I feel that he's physically grown into that weight, and I think he'll be able to do a lot in that weight. All he has to do is just box Canelo, and every once in a while throw a lot of combinations inside if he could, use his defense, and just fight a smart fight. And I think he could possibly knock down Canelo or hurt him. I don't know if he can stop him, but it's possible. But I feel like he'll win by unanimous decision. And I feel like Canelo, well, I know Canelo didn't knock out any of his fighters in his last fights, and there were limited opposition. Berlanga and Munguia, and Charlo came up 2 weight classes, and he still wasn't able to knock him out. He knocked him down, but he didn't knock him out. So it's like, what makes you think he's gonna knock out Crawford? Crawford's a lot better than Charlo in all those fighters that he's fought. And I don't care what they say about Madrimov. Madrimov and Crawford. Crawford won that fight, and Madrimov is way more skilled than Canelo. A lot of people are overlooking the fact that Madrimov is way more skillful, has a better boxing pedigree than Canelo. He's not one-dimensional. He's very technical. He's a great counterpuncher, and he has 100 and something fights in the amateur fights. So he makes up for those 10 fights that he had. And styles make fights. Even though Ortiz, looked better against Madrimov than Crawford, that doesn't mean that Ortiz could beat Crawford. His styles make fights. And he did have struggled. He did struggle. Ortiz did struggle with Madrimov in the first few rounds up to the 5th round, around there. And then he started picking it up and started throwing a lot of combinations and hurting Madrimov. But his style is different than Crawford. Crawford's more of a technical fight because that was the first time that he was at 154 pounds when he was fighting Madrimov. But I believe that Crawford, he's going to do really good against Canelo. A lot of people are sleeping on him. And that's my verdict. That's my verdict. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate all the love. J.R. Ryder said, facts, 100. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you tuning into my channel. Subscribe to that channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000. Yeah, so I believe that's what's going to take place. And I feel that in any way, it's hard to pronounce his name. In any way, with Cardenas knocked him down in the 2nd round, and he came back and he dominated and knocked him out. But that was a fight that fans needed to see Friday when they, instead of having that lackluster performance of Canelo and the other guy, Rolly Romero and Ryan Garcia, and what's the other guy? The one that got knocked out by Garcia. What's his name? Canelo. J.R. Ryder. Canelo's gonna bring out the best in Crawford. I agree, man. I totally agree. A lot of people are sleeping on Crawford, man. Crawford is he's the truth. A lot of people make it about race. Oh, like the Mexicans gonna. Nah, man. You gotta be realistic. You gotta be a fan of the art of the boxing. The hit and not get hit, but also the brawling too, but with a technique. Not just only brawling. You got. But everybody has their own preference. But when it comes to boxing, it's about the skill. Whoever's more skillful, and it's not boring, combined, I think Crawford's not boring. He's skillful and he's not boring. He's not like Mayweather, but, Mayweather got the job done, but, he was more safety first than Crawford. Crawford's a combination of he takes chances, but he also uses boxing. So it's like I like Crawford's style, and I think he's very, very talented, and I think he's for whatever fights he wasn't able to get early in his career, he's gonna make up for it with Canelo, and he's gonna prove a lot of haters wrong. And I don't want no excuses when Canelo gets dominated by Crawford. I don't want nobody to say, "Oh, he was past his prime." Canelo has always struggled with boxers. He always had trouble with boxers. That's a fact. Subscribe to my channel. I think subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. And Inoue gave us a great performance of what boxing needs to be like. But what we got with Romero, Ryan Garcia, and all those fights with Skull, Canelo, that was trash. The fans deserve better. The fans deserve better than that. You agree? The fans deserve better than that. And I think Inoue and Cardenas gave us the perfect type of fight that the fans need to see on a regular basis with these other so-called great fighters like Canelo and Brian Garcia, which is not really an elite fighter. He's just a popular fighter, and neither is Rolly Romero. And that's what boxing is becoming, a circus. And then now we're going to have Tank Davis fight Jake Paul, which is ridiculous. I understand they want to make money, but it's just ridiculous what they're giving us. They're not giving the fans what they deserve. The fans need to get the fights that they deserve. Subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think? Who do you have winning? Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos, June 7th. Teofimo Lopez versus Jaron Boots Ennis on August. They're negotiating that fight. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. Does a win versus Canelo put Crawford ahead of Mayweather as the best fighter in the generation? I won't say that it'll put him better than Mayweather, but it can make an argument for him. Like some people might consider that to be enough to be better than Mayweather. But I feel like, Mayweather has a better resume than him. But it depends on what people think about Canelo, how high they rank him. And, a lot of people put him on a high pedestal. So I think that it could build an argument for Crawford to be the best fighter in this generation and put him ahead of Mayweather. Like for some people it will. I just feel like in spite of me not really liking Mayweather like that, I do respect what he's accomplished. And I know that, everybody has their own opinion, and then the fighters that he's fought, the champions that he's beaten, he's beaten more elite fighters than Crawford, but that doesn't mean that Crawford wouldn't be able to surpass him if he beat Canelo. But I feel like, in my opinion, no. I think that you need more elite fighters under your resume to actually claim that. That's the way I look at it. But I still feel like he can make a case for himself with some fans. Jay Ryder, I agree. Thanks for tuning in, my brother. Thanks for tuning in. Tony also knows boxing. Thanks for tuning in. Did you subscribe or you been subscribed? Because I recognize your name, J.R. Ryder. Have you subscribed before, or you didn't subscribe yet? And if you haven't subscribed, just click that subscribe button. You won't regret it. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Tony also knows boxing. Yes. So that's how I feel about Crawford. He's a great fighter, man. Like I do like what he stands for. I like his story. I like who he is as a person, who he is as a boxer. Like he looks like a great person. I subscribed a while ago. Yeah, I know. I recognize your name. I just wanted to make sure. Thanks for tuning in, my brother, J.R. Ryder. Thanks for tuning in, my brother. Real niggas, man. Real people out here. There's real people. Real people subscribe to my channel, man. People with good hearts, people with integrity, people that are not afraid to be the best version of themselves. They always subscribe to my channel because they feel the energy, they feel the positive vibes from me. I'm not afraid to be the best version of myself and encourage somebody else to be the same way. So So yeah, subscribe to that channel. Check out my music, Tony also, on all major platforms. Spotify, Pandora. I sing and I rap. And I got good music coming too. Um, yeah, so that's all I got for now. I want to thank everybody for tuning into my channel. And I'll be giving you more content later. I'm going to try to make my channel background more professional. Put Tony also knows boxing in the background. I'm trying to do all those things. Just give me some time. Bear with me. I'm trying to get behind the technicalities of, working on your channel, making it look more professional, etc. But I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm getting really close. And thank you. You guys have a great, blessed day. And you'll have more Tony also knows boxing and my music for days to come in the future. One love. Tony also knows boxing. Subscribe to that channel. Subscribe to that channel. Don't be afraid to click the like button. Don't be afraid to subscribe to the realness. One love. Peace. Peace out, everybody. Tony also knows boxing.